Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. We'll begin. I am Brian Goodger, federal employee. I run an office called NITAAC, National Institutes of Health, Information Technology Acquisition and Assessment Center. It's a mouthful. What does it really mean? I have one of the largest IT contracts in government that both DoD uses and civilian agencies. So I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes. I'm going to open it up for comments and questions. Before I do that, because it is procurement, because it is in Hawaii, because I don't want to bore you, we're going to have a couple trivia questions. But even before that, I need a show of hands. Private sector in the audience, raise your hand. Good, private sector, good. And put in a proposal on CIO-SP3. Good and good. Okay, DoD, active duty, anybody, federal government, civilian, GS. Thank you, good, and yes? Okay, great, fantastic. All right, I am GS as well. Okay, trivia questions. So it's got a thumb drive on the end, so the DoD guys have to use it in their personal life, because I know you can't take this on base. So we'll do the following questions. Who is the, hello, hi. Amazing who we see at conferences. Who was the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital? First U.S. president to be born in a hospital. If you know, shout it out. If you want to start guessing, first to guess it. It's not as long ago as one might think. No, but you're getting close. Hint, hint, he's still living. First U.S. president to be born in a hospital. You don't need a pen. You do not need a pen. Give it to someone else, please. All right. All right, next question, also for a pen. What is the most utilized government website? It is not whitehouse.gov. It is not the IRS. It is not Homeland Security. Who's got a guess? Whoa. Sam.gov, I wish, but no, that's a good guess. FPDS, good guess, but no. Anybody else? Somebody else shouted something out. Social Security, good try, no. It is, and I'll give it to the DoD guys. It is the National Library of Medicine, NLM, which is part of the NIH, and it's part of the Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, last question. Washington Monument on the Mall in Washington, D.C. opened in October of what year? Washington Monument on the Mall, Washington, D.C. Who's been there besides me? Anybody? Good, good, good. What year? I'll give you a hint. 3 of the numbers are exactly the same. God, that is an excellent guess, and that is correct. 1888. You got it. All right. Now, that was the fun part of my presentation. Now becomes, unfortunately, the serious part. So I will try to make it as entertaining as possible. Please, at any point in time, if you do not understand what I'm saying, if I use an acronym you don't know or don't like, stop me. I do not need to wait for questions. Stop me. All right. Actually, I'll walk a little bit. Okay, so what I mentioned again in my intro is what the heck is NITAAC? It's a strange sounding word. It sounds kind of private sector-ish. What is it? Basically, my job is, and my program, my group, I'm empowered by OMB, Office of Management and Budget, to bridge the gap between the government and the private sector. That's what I do. I bridge that gap. How do I do that? I do that with a contracting vehicle. What do I do specifically? I create a contracting vehicle up front for the government to use whenever they want. So I always draw a similarity between I create a buffet dinner, you come and eat when you want. You might be a little bit hungry, you might be a lot hungry, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow. Whenever you want, you come and eat as a federal employee. So who are my customers? My customers are contracting officers on the civilian side of the government, we call them COs, or in DoD, we call them KOs, of course, because CO in DoD is a commanding officer, and IT program managers, end users, IT people, and budget officers. Those are the type of people I like to talk to. Those are my customers, okay? All right, so I'm going to hit some of these slides, not all. Again, stop me at any point in time if you want to talk about acronyms, if you want to talk about the state of procurement, if you want to talk about the state of IT procurement. Okay, if you see the word BIC, best in class, that's an OMB term. There are 4 best-in-class levels, 0, 1, 2, 3. My program, NITAAC, is a level 3. What does that mean? It means it has the integrity of data. It means that you can trust it. It's a reliable source. It's a vehicle that has a stamp of approval from OMB, and that the government, my customer, can feel good about using it. Why would my customer use it? Well, because instead of going to, who said SAM earlier, System for Award Management? Instead of going full and open on SAM for a procurement, might take 6, 8, 10 months. You can do it off my vehicle in 6, 8, 10 weeks. That's why people come to me. Save an incredible amount of time. Are there other people out there like me? Yes, there are. GSA, NASA SOUP, NITAAC. The 3 of us together do about 30% of the IT spend in government. I have friends there. I know people there. I talk to those people. Our job is not to go try to get some of that 30% from each other. Our job is to go get the 70% that we think is doing it the long way, the wrong way. So while I am not a salesman, I am a contracting officer. I am here to educate, explain, answer questions. I am here to make sure that you have another tool in your toolbox for the DoDers and the GSs. Yes, ma'am. Good question. State governments. On occasion, if requested, we will allow state governments to utilize the vehicle. Yeah. It's rare, but it has happened. Okay, next, GWACs, kind of a funny term, government-wide acquisition contract. That means anybody in the government can use it, and I mean anybody. Anybody in the government can use it at any point in time. Okay, we have a lot of qualified small businesses on our vehicle. We have about 450 companies. About 65% of them are small. What type of small? You name it, we have it, the whole gamut. So women-owned, hub zone, historically underutilized business zone, 8A, Chapter 8A of the Small Business Act, small disadvantaged business, veteran-owned small business. You name it, we have it. Okay, anybody out here, anybody in 8A by chance, or a hub zone, women-owned, just a regular small? Okay, I'm sorry? SDVOSB, small disadvantaged, veteran-owned small business, good, thank you. Okay, we are in almost every department and agency across government. We NITAAC. They utilize our vehicle, some to a small extent, some to a large extent. We do about $6 billion of business a year. Our largest customer is DoD. Second largest is HHS, Health and Human Services. Okay, next up. Why would DoD want to use the NITAAC vehicle? Well, there's 2 ways you can use it for federal customers. Number 1, you can do what's called directed business, meaning anybody in any agency or department who has a warrant can log into the system and place an order using our system. We call that directed business. Number 2 is assisted acquisition. So those in DoD, you don't like your KO, you don't know your KO, they don't know IT. You laugh, but it's true. Some don't like them. We're not exactly the most likable people. And instead of you going to your own contracting shop, you MIPR us the money, and we run the whole thing for you. And for that, we charge 2% of the task order contract value. If you're going to log in and use our system, you pay 0.55 for a small business contractor and 0.45 for a small business contractor. This 801, Section 801 of the National Defense Authorization Act, is a stamp of approval that I receive every year that gives me the authority to perform DoD acquisitions on your behalf. It says that we are trained in the DFARS, the FAR supplement, the DFARS. And I have ex-DoD KOs on my staff. Okay, that assisted acquisition for 2%, what do you get for that? You get the full circle, the full gamut of federal contracting. So we will help you with acquisition planning and IGCE, the evaluation factors. We'll post a solicitation on our system. We'll receive quotes. We'll help you with the technical evaluation panel. We'll negotiate, make award, and administer. And we'll also be the bad cop for you if there are problems with your contractor. Okay, I've got a couple of slides here I'm going to skip through for the essence of time, because I really want to talk about what's coming up in IT budget, and specifically what's coming up with NITAAC here in the fiscal year 25. All right, so where's the IT budget? It's going up. You can read there the amount of money that they're allocating for IT. It's going up every year. Cybersecurity, agile, blockchain, lift and shift, you name it. If it's anything under IT, my group does it. Okay, my contracting vehicle can do it. Okay, next I want to talk about where our vehicles are, specifically CIO-CS. So this is we have two vehicles, CIO-CS, which is hardware, products, commodities, IT peripherals. That one ends in April of 2025. It's about to go through a recompete. It only goes through a recompete every 5 to 10 years. So if you're in the private sector and you do IT hardware, products, peripherals, commodities, this will be of interest to you. Okay, the recompete's going to happen hopefully in the spring. The current vehicle ends in April. It'll be extended. It'll be extended by 6 months. It'll go into the fall in October. Question? You? Yeah. Oh, I thought you were. Yeah. All right. So what can you do on the CS vehicle? Computers, hardware, commodities, IT peripherals, phones, you name it. Anything that's IT products. The government buys it. It buys it in large quantities, specifically in the third and fourth quarter. Again, why does the government come to my vehicle? Well, number one, they probably didn't plan well. They didn't organize well. It's the end of the fiscal year. They've got money. They've got extra money. They found money. And unlike your personal life, having too much money is a bad thing in government. You got to spend it. If you don't spend it, then you get questioned about the next year. Well, then you must not have needed it. You didn't take the time to plan and spend it. So if you have a customer who calls you in July, August, September, and says, what can you do for me? And you tell them what you can do as a private sector. And they say, great, how can I get to you? You can point to NITAAC and say, you can get to me off NITAAC. Otherwise, you're not going to have time to make the obligation. Okay, another reason that customers use NITAAC. Under $10 million, no protest. Who's had to deal with protests besides me on CIO-SP3? Yes, sir, good. And yes, protests are a pain. As we say in government, if you get a protest, getting a protest is not a big deal, really. Losing a protest is a huge deal. That's normally when federal employees update their resume and go to another job. So under 10 million, no protest allowed. So we have a lot of requirements that are 9.99 million. Not strange at all to see that. How many quotes or proposals do we get per solicitation per RFQ? 3 to 5. That's how we go so quickly. What kind of task orders and delivery orders can we do off the vehicle? If you know anything about government contracts and talk about contract type, you can do firm fixed price, cost reimbursement, labor hours, time materials, or a hybrid of all of them, which is why DoD likes it. So the contract type does not have to be uniform throughout the actual order. Okay, I talked about best in class already, so I'm going to skip through there. Okay, people like to know who's on the vehicle, what types of businesses, what do they do? On CIO-SP3, that's now I'm moving over to the services vehicle. It's a $20 billion ceiling. By the way, if the government puts an order on the last day of that ordering period, it can go out another 5 years, effectively making it a 15-year period of performance. Okay, that's fantastic news for the government because even though we're under a protest here on CIO-SP4, if they reward off 3 today, it can go out 5 years. So the end of the contract, which is currently in April, really has no bearing on period of performance out 5 years. 137 labor categories. It's both commercial and non-commercial. That's where you get the cost reimbursement, the labor hours, the time material task orders. 137 labor categories. Another thing I want to talk about there in the new vehicle in CIO-SP4, we've flushed out some of these labor categories. We've made them more expansive. We've allowed for emerging technologies, thing in the IT industry now that we think might happen in 3, 5, 7 years down the road, but we're not for sure. So we've built in the infrastructure to add them. Okay, I'm going to skip through these. All right, the other vehicle, large versus small. So on the left are the larges, 47. We call them other than smalls, which a term I don't like, but larges. They have to be eligible in all 10 task areas. The NCAF or NITAAC contract access fee, 0.65. I mentioned that earlier. We have a cap. No customer pays more than $150,000 any 1 year. On the right, 337 smalls. They do not have to be eligible in all 10 task areas. The NCAF is 0.55. Cap is the same. The DoD loves this slide because no matter how much they use the vehicle in any 1 year, they're only going to pay $150,000 in fees. Okay, another reason that customers utilize the vehicle, they can receive their own small business credit for their own internal goals. So this is a great job for for them to meet their small business goals off NITAAC. They don't have to go out and search on SAM or award somewhere else to check the box for their own small business goals. What do we buy under SP3? Again, services. You can see the 10 task areas here. As I mentioned, we flushed some out for CIO-SP4, hopefully coming soon. If you've seen the IT definition in government, it's ever growing and expanding. Basically, if any project that you as a government customer has is 51% IT, we can do it. Current expiration date is April 29th, 2025. I will say now quickly that SP4 award is expected in March or April. If March or April is unable to happen, we will absolutely, positively, 100% extend CIO-SP3. How long will we extend it? 6 months. When will we know we're going to need to extend it? I've kind of got an internal date of February 1st. So by February 1st, we'll make the decision based on how the protests are going. We're down to about 16 protests. So we're done with Government Accountability Office, GAO. We're on what's called COFC, Court of Federal Claims. If we resolve those 16 protests successfully by about February 1st, then we've got a clear path to award. If we do not, then we will extend the current version, SP3. And we'll extend it through the fiscal year of 2025. Any questions on that? Okay. I just talked about that. Okay, I want to talk about the commodities vehicle. Back to the commodities vehicle. So this one only does commercial items, so it's only firm fixed price, labor hours, and time material delivery orders. There are no cost reimbursement because it's not non-commercial. It's had a 5-year base and a 5-year option. Also expires this April of 2025. I just mentioned that we're likely going to extend it also to October of 2025. Just as similar, if you award a delivery order off this on the last day of performance, it can go out 5 years. Okay, this is everything IT, hardware, products, IT peripherals, commodities. The markup on a lot of this stuff is very small, so the NCAF, therefore, is also smaller. It's only 0.35. Here are the categories. Again, really probably the favorite spot for our customers to come in the third and fourth quarter when they have excess funds, when they've received money they didn't know they were going to get. I get a lot of questions in September about, hey, can you help me? Hey, I need a favor. Hey, pretty please. I know I've missed the deadline, but I want to send you some money. So the government's buying these types of things. Okay, the follow-on to CIO-CS is called the store. The store. We've had some market research meetings. We've had an RFI. We're currently dealing with what's called FITARA clearance. Anybody ever heard of FITARA? Good. Federal Information Technology Acquisition Reform Act. If you can't sleep any one night, pick that up, Google it on your phone, you'll be out in 5 minutes. Basically, it's a way for the CIO office to manage the CIO requirements and spend in any department or agency to make sure there's not duplication of efforts, that there's not an existing vehicle that can already answer the requirement. So we have to go through the CIO's office to get the FITARA clearance. That's taking longer than we had thought. Eventually we'll get through it, and then we'll post this solicitation in 2025, early in 2025. CIO-SP4, back to that one. What else is going on besides the task areas being flushed out and expanded that I mentioned? The ceiling's going up. It's going up from 20 billion to 50 billion. Still going to have the same 10-year period of performance. The NCAF, the contract access fee, is not going to change. What will change is the number of companies. We're likely going to increase a little bit. We're around 450 now. We're probably going to get pretty close to 500 in the new vehicle, with an equal percentage of where we are on smalls versus larges. Again, about 60% smalls. Okay, the best thing about NITAAC, bar none, is the customer service line. Where else can you call a live person in government and they pick up an answer? Anybody, I could call this number right now and they will pick up an answer and say, how can I help you? If you're not a federal employee, if you are a federal employee, write that number down. If you're not a federal employee, the NITAAC website is also a great place to do a little market research and find out what the government is buying, who they're buying it from. All the companies are listed there. And then finally, if you're back in government for DODers and the CS, or GS, excuse me, if you have a requirement that needs a second set of eyes, someone else to scrub it, have comments and questions. We are what's called a fee-for-service organization, but in this case, for the first 1 or 2 with new customers, I do what's called free for service. So if you send us your package, We'll scrub it. We'll give you some questions, some comments, some things to think about. I'll send it to my IT people to send it back to you for free and give you a second opinion, give you some things to think about. The NITAAC website is also a great place for market research in terms of the RFI that I mentioned earlier, but also sources sought to let you know maybe it's the right place for you to do your requirement, maybe it isn't. Okay. Finally, the tools and templates that I mentioned there on the website. Last thing I want to say is if you're a federal employee and you want a training on NITAAC, hey, I've heard of that. I'd like to see the system. We will come into your office or remote in and do a mock requirement, run it through the system. We call the system e-GOS, Electronic Government Ordering System, so you can see what it looks like. You can see the drop-down menus. You can see how you progress through the screens. You can see how easy it is. We'll do that we'll do it for free. You get 2 CLPs or CEUs for your continuing education. A lot of people take us up on this. Even if you never use the vehicle, that's okay. Okay, all you got to do is reach out to the NITAAC help desk there on the email, say you're going to set up a date and time. We'll come out to you. We'll remote in. Okay, that's the NITAAC 101 Skinny. We have a booth over there. In the 900 wing, 2 individuals sitting there with the booth if you have specific comments or questions. But with that, because lunch is next, I will open it up to comments and questions and end a little early. Anybody questions on NITAAC or just procurement in general? Yes, ma'am. Good question. The question is, do I anticipate an on-ramp on CIO-SP3 after it's awarded? Likely no. However, we'll see how the first 3 to 4 years go and then make a decision. The reason I say likely no is not because we don't want to do it, but we don't have the confidence level that I would like to a degree where we think we can get through it without protest and taking 3 to 5 years. If I had that confidence level, then I would say yes. Yeah, the interesting thing about the protest, and I know how it affects you guys, in that you can't do work off the vehicle, you don't have the assurances you're on the vehicle, there's some unknowns there, some instability. I can empathize with you because we have some of the same problems internally. I have to hire more people to help fight the protest. So I run as a fee-for-service. I've got to manage my own budget. I've got to be solvent. My staff levels go up and down depending on the fiscal year and where we are. So it's costing me money and time too, unfortunately. And a little bit of loss of customers. And once you lose them, they're hard to get back. Yeah, good question. Anybody else? Questions about NITAAC or procurement in general? Yeah, good question. So the question is, how does the state government use it? There's a part of the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, that enables a government customer to request that a state government get access to the vehicle. So the customer would have to send us the request. Those customers, again, IT managers, budget officers, people in government, federal employees. That's the only way that you can do it. Yes, yes. It's very rare. Anybody else? How am I doing on time? Okay, got about another 15 minutes. If anybody wants to talk afterwards, they want to ask a question, they don't want to ask in front of anybody else, that's fine. Again, we're over there in the booth on the 900 wing. Last chance, comments and questions. Anything procurement, period. Not just NITAAC or IT. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.